It is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Harley Municipal Utilities Board of Trustees to order. Let's start with approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Saber, aye.
Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Includes the minutes of the September 9th board meeting, electronic board meeting, abstract of claims 1197 in the amount of $669,325. The upcoming board meetings, October 14th, an electronic board meeting, and October 28th, an in-person board meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Saber, aye.
Okay, item number 4 is to receive and file the 2020-2021 fiscal year audit.
Okay, we met with the auditors last week to kind of review it, and just briefly some of the highlights. Revenues increased 13.69%, or a little over 1.9 million. Expenses increased 17.75, 2 million, and the utilities net position increased 4.25%, or 1.8 million for the fiscal year June 30, 2020 to June 30, 2021. The water fund experienced some large expenditures that were unbudgeted and impacted cash flow for the utility. $106,000 in litigation expenses related to water treatment plant, $130,000 for remediation of pressure filter number 2, and $78,000 for engineering costs related to the raw water development project. Telecommunications fund also experienced some unbudgeted items for fiscal 21 impacting cash flows. $62,647 for telecommunication petition expenses. $31,955 new customer equipment over and above the $10,000 that we had budgeted, and then basically related to a lot of the new customer connections out at the Prairie Fire Development on the north side of town. And then also robocall mandated mitigation, mandated by the FCC, and $10,000. And then the mandated C-band relocation, some materials, $3,100 in materials, and a number of hours so far in manpower for that relocation. So that's a high-level overview. If there's any more detail, copies of the budget are available. And I believe the board members all got one electronically, correct?
Everybody did, yeah. Board members and press.
All right.
Just need a motion to receive and file the audit.
Go
All
ahead.
motion to receive and file.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Saber, aye.
All right, item number 5 is request to carry over 3 days of vacation for the CEO per contract, 1 week allowed with board approval. This is pretty common and traditional. So.
Yeah, I usually end up carrying over some time over every year, so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Saber, aye.
Okay, item number 6 is the water utility vendor agreement, low-income household water assistance program.
This is a new one for us. We're used to light heat for heating assistance, and so now they've expanded it to where it's also to include water assistance. So this has been reviewed by legal counsel as the new program through September 30, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Saber, aye.
Item number 7 is the annual Bobcat lease in the amount of $5,450.
Yep. This is, again, the annual renewal for the skid steer that we release on an annual basis. So it's used by all the departments.
And we're a month early with this because of the reason that it's getting guaranteed new Bobcat this year. So that's why it's a month earlier than normal. But trying to get a guarantee, so we get one before the end of the year is out, so everything is
And before
backed
that-
up and
Before everybody runs out of inventory.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that probably might.
I'll make a motion to approve the lease.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Okay, item number 8 is the proposed resolution number 90-2021, resolution updating work week section of the manual of benefits and personnel policies.
Yes, this primarily there is an impact to the water department. Historically, or I should say historically, over the last few years, what we've generally had was 2 people who rotated the weekend shift. They would be off on Thursdays and Fridays, and then they would, every other week, they would work the weekends. And they were not part of the on-call roster for the utility. The proposal, since we've had some resistance with employees working weekends, we met with the water department, discussed this possible answer or resolution of it. We did have one employee who didn't want to return to weekends because he felt he had previously done his time on weekends. But basically what would happen is the 4 primary water treatment plant operators would, on a once every 4-week basis, they would work weekend hours just to do the testing, the required weekend testing on Saturday and Sunday. And what it does is it allows us to have full staffing Monday through Friday, whereas in the past, we were usually short a person Thursday and Friday, and if somebody else was on vacation, then we'd be down to 2 people. So this should help with that scheduling, as well as the 2 weekend people will now go on the on-call roster and be available for that. And as I said, we did meet with the water department staff, and in the past, the weekend assignments, full-time assignments, hasn't been an issue in recruiting and retaining, so.
And could I add something?
Yes.
The water plant foreman actually was the one that approached us and said, hey, I have this idea, do you think it would work? And then, so that's when we said, well, it sounds good, let's have everybody meet so everybody's on the same page and make sure that they're all in agreement with it. And they all feel too that it'll help not only recruit employees, but keep employees longer. They only have to work 1 weekend a month for 3 hours each day. And just as kind of a history between the different departments, when we have hired cashiers in the past, we had 32 applicants and 22 applicants. Our crew laborer, we had 17 and 15. For our CSRs, we had anywhere between 62 and 42 applicants over the last 4 times. Our installers, between 6 and 29. Our lineman apprentice, at one time, we actually had 29 applicants. The last time, we only had 5. Our meter readers, we have anywhere from 24 to 51 applicants the last 6 times that we've had openings. And in our water plant, we have only had between 4 and 14. So I think it kind of shows that we always struggle getting people even to apply for those positions when they are working weekends.
So you said that there was one person that was not necessarily on board, is that going to be problematic?
I don't believe so. The way it sounded, the other guys that are in the department, they said that, well, one of the newer ones says that he would be willing to take weekends for him, but
Extra hours.
I guess that's a decision that he would have to make. If he refuses, then I suppose he would get written up by the foreman if he's not taking his turn. How it'll work is that it'll take a while to get the 2 new guys gas trained. So we will put them on the on-call schedule at the beginning of the year, so it won't mess with anything the remainder of this year. And then so in January, they'll go on, and if they're gas qualified, they'll be able to start. If they're not, the other guys will take their place on the rotation until they get their qualifications in.
What's wrong with retaining people? Why are we
Well, we
to retain? I mean, just because of weekends?
A lot of times they like to switch departments because of weekends. I mean, we had one guy that switched because he didn't want to do any more testing. as far as getting the grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, he decided he didn't want to do any more testing, so he switched to another department. Another one switched, they didn't want weekends, and we've had people that have switched back and forth. But we're hoping that it'll get people at least in the door and then they'll stay, if they don't have to work the weekends, because they always say that they'll work the weekends, and then that's always the biggest complaint is,
Yeah.
geez, we have to work weekends.
Especially if they get married or something else, then, well, now the weekends are an issue, so.
It's not for any other reason.
Not to wear a crowd.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Seibert, aye.
Item number 9 is proposed resolution number 91-2021, updating overtime section and relief period section of the manual of benefits and personnel policies.
This is one that's been hanging out there for a couple of meetings. We've talked about it and kept pushing it forward, trying to come up with some language that made sense. Basically, it's in response to a situation where we had a couple of employees who were called in while they were on vacation to help with an emergency water leak repair. And it ended up impacting them because of the length of the project and everything else, that they ended up, a portion of those hours were regular pay instead of overtime pay because of the way the language currently is in the manual. So it's just to kind of clean up some language to address that type of situation, so that if they get called out and they're on vacation or any of the other kind of paid leave, they'll get overtime pay for the duration of that emergency repair. So, is that correct, Jenny, or is anything?
Yeah, no, that's correct. They'll just, when the handbook was changed a few years back, I think it was 3 or 4, if there was any leave time used throughout a day, then overtime wasn't paid. If they worked after that, it was just paid at the regular rate. So this would, their first 2 hours of a call out have still always been paid overtime because it's a call out, so it's 2 hours at overtime rate. And anything after that was paid at regular rate if they were gone on sick or vacation leave. So this will just kind of clean that up a little bit. It pretty much only affects the water department because they're the ones that get called out for main breaks and usually take longer than 2 hours to fix. And if they don't have to fix it that night and it can wait till the next day, they will wait and schedule it the next day so that they don't run into getting that extra overtime. Because trust me, if they don't have to be out there when it's 30 degrees and help fix on the main break, they're not going to do it. But if it's something that needs immediate attention, then this will help so that they'll still get their overtime.
Okay, you're satisfied with the way it's written?
Yeah, and I had sent it over to the water plant yesterday, because asked Donald, read this over, do you guys have any questions, does everything make sense to you? And he said it all. He had a few questions and I explained it, and he said, yep, that sounds exactly what we all talked about, so.
Okay.
Propose that we accept resolution 91-2021.
I second.
Okay, roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Carol, aye.
Reese, aye.
Seibert, aye.
All right, item number 10, the Harley Municipal Utilities Pressure Filter Number 1 repairs, contract documents, and notice to proceed.
Yes, previous meetings, we reviewed the results of the bids for the pressure filter number 1 repairs, basically putting the torpedo sand in the media to re-stratify the media. And so this is the contract documents and notice to proceed for that project. So.
And they were okay with the liquidated damage clause in there for $500 a day?
As far as we know, yeah.
I wasn't on that, I don't.
We didn't receive anything to the contrary anyway from the engineer, so.
I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal.
Second.
Yeah, roll call.
Michelle, aye.
Cheryl, aye.
Reese, aye.
Cyber aye.
Okay, number 11, we have some informational only items. We have a Braun Intech invoice in the amount of $23,666.
Yes, this was for the environmental and geotech as part of the raw water project, so.
And item B is a discussion on Prairie Fire Construction Group LLC unpaid bill of $41,284 and possible litigation.
Yes, Prairie Fire was the developer of the housing up in on the north edge of town up there. They did the duplexes, they did the apartments, they did the community building for the tenants, that type of thing. And we currently have an outstanding invoice with them, a little over $41,000. And they've not been responsive to us for the payment of that amount. And we've gone past the 90 days, which is kind of the limit for filing a mechanical lien. And so the next option would be to go to litigation and file against them. So that's basically what we intend to do. This will be a formal proposal at the next board meeting, but we wanted to make the board aware of what we're trying to do here and why we're doing it. In the meantime, between now and the next board meeting, council will continue to try to track someone down to be responsible for this. It appears that Prairie Fire Development Group is no longer active in Iowa, so it appears it was an entity they set up for the development of the project. But the Prairie Fire Management Group is still incorporated in Kansas, and it appears that the development group has finished their work and they turned it over to the management group, so that is the avenue that we'll be pursuing for the fees, is to approach the management group.
So that would be like Selden?
Selden is just a hired on-site manager.
Okay.
This is the group out of Kansas City that actually owns the project.
So they
And
have,
that is on the line if you guys have any
Yeah, that's
questions.
I'm not sure, they've just been non-responsive, they haven't refused.
They've just been non-responsive. Yeah.
Here's the situation. We met with Ken and Jenny today, and I took the liberty of looking them up on the Secretary of State's website in Iowa. And essentially, can everybody hear me okay?
Can you guys all hear?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Okay. Essentially, they let their status as an active organization through the Secretary of State lapse because they did not fill out their biennial report. Now, that doesn't mean anything. It happens to companies all the time. They just lose paperwork or don't turn it in on time. Whatever. But I think Ken is on something. They may have just been done with the project here and then just decided we're done in Iowa. And if we have to redo our biennial reports in Iowa for some other project, we can. Now, I also looked on the Missouri Secretary of State website. They are the same company with the same address with the same registered agent, and they are active in Missouri. And I guess this is for informational purposes, so if it comes to a vote next meeting, I think it's on the 28th of October, that you'll understand that we have the ability to file a lawsuit, in my opinion, jurisdictionally here in Shelby County, Iowa. Number one, because this is where the work was performed, and number two, because this is where we were supposed to receive the compensation for that work. So we don't have any jurisdictional issues. It won't cost us any extra money to go have an attorney in Kansas City, Missouri, or somewhere down there do anything. We're able to do that even though they are no longer an active organization according to the Secretary of State and I. So that's my recommendation to the dollar amount. I think Ken just kind of rounded off like the 42,000, but that's approximately what it is. So it's my opinion that it is definitely worth pursuing.
And how much is it gonna cost us to pursue it? You said nothing? I mean, is it gonna cost us $60,000 to pursue 41?
Attorney's fees and court costs?
That would be an extraordinarily unlikely scenario. There's, I mean, we're talking about a $235 filing fee, getting them, on the hook. I mean, we did the work for them and they didn't pay. This is not a drawn-out, expensive litigation process. I just can't imagine that they would spend good money after bad, because there's no way for them to recoup attorney's fees from us. And it just seems like a collections that I've done for HMU previously, just a little bit higher amount, I guess. I wouldn't, with the hourly rate that I have already charged HMU and continue to be allowed to charge, the rates to me is insignificant. What we would do is we would get the judgment, which is likely, based on the facts of the case, without much ado. I mean, even a trial would be very insignificant, because it's just the evidence is there. You call the CEO as a witness, or Jenny or somebody, or Deb, and it is what it is. And if we get a judgment and they're still operating business, which appeared to be, then we would register that judgment in Missouri, where they have real estate. And if they ever try to sell it, we can collect that way. We can make other efforts to collect. But I do not see this being an expensive process, and I do it for companies quite often. So I can't give you a dollar amount, but I can tell you it's worth pursuing at that dollar amount, for sure.
And basically what it's for is it's the unpaid balance for gas, water, electric extensions and work in relation to their development. So that will become up next month. We just want to make the board aware of that.
They also, I should point out a few of the facts, and I don't know if Ken knows, but they paid a bill in like July for 99 quarters of it, I mean, pulling this off is basically the bottom line. And I don't know why, but you see discovery to be a huge issue in the case, like it is in other many litigations we've discussed recently. None of that really applies here. It's just kind of, are you going to pay or not, and are you a viable company? And we'll know that very much into the process.
Any other questions for Matt then?
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
In progress, we have a lease agreement for a dark fiber lease telecommunications service between Iowa Communications Network and Harlan Municipal, us, and the Harlan Community Library.
Yeah. This is, again, is a carryover. We're just waiting for, since it does involve a third-party use of city library space, we are waiting for the input from the library before we bring this back to the board. So.
Yeah, we weren't waiting for correspondence from the library, as noted on here. The circumstance changed. ICN actually came in there and removed their rack of equipment and took it out, and they changed their contract. And they did leave a fiber panel in that room, which I think they want to have access to. So I'm trying to arrange the terms so that all three parties sign that ICN contract. It'd be HMU, ICN, and library.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. CEO's report.
Okay, a few things. First of all, a late item that's come up. We've got a situation down on Hawkeye in 12th Street. Basically west from the trailer park down there. We've got a section of three-phase where we've had one leg of the three-phase fail, and we need to replace that with the street crossing, driveway crossings, and then the proximity of some of the commercial customers along that section. We need to bore that. It's about 650 feet, which is beyond what we're capable of doing. So under the premise of emergency repairs, I'm going to be approving roughly a $12,350 expenditure for quality communications to come in and put in conduit along that north section of the street so that we can pull in a new three-phase conductor. This is the second fault that we've had on that section of line. It's some of the old concentric that was put in years ago, and it's aged, it's failed, and we need to get it repaired. So that'll be something that, like I said, the proposal is that I'll approve it on an emergency basis, so we can go ahead and get that done, get the conduit in, and then we'll be pulling the wire and cable ourselves and doing all the connections. This is just simply a company who can come in and has capacity to do that bore along the north side of the road for us. So, Dar, anything you want to add to that, or?
Well, on that old excentric, they usually can thump it to find the faults and that, but we're advised not to thump it because if we do, it could burn into another phase by the charge we send down it, so and then we'd be totally out, and then we'd have to try and jump somewhere to get power, just to get single phase back into that area. So we felt it'd be better to go down this path than to, knock the lines back out again. So
Since I've been on the board, we've had nothing but problems with that old cable. How much of that is left?
We're doing an inventory. We've got a couple of areas of town, as you might recall, in conjunction with the underground, or the completion of the fiber, we replaced that section on your old street. What's that?
between Grand and Lincoln from 12th to College. We've got conduit laying there in the ground to replace that. They put conduit in at that time.
Right.
But we just ain't had the time to pull it. We're gonna go through and do an inventory on all the old eccentric and try and incorporate that into our last final phase that we have got to do, so.
But it has, it's been nothing but problems, faults, so. Other items, kudos for the water department. We've received a customer compliment on water leak repair up off Cheyenne and Erie. Kudos to the electric department for some work they did the first part of September for some after-hours repairs. Anniversaries, Rich Bielenberg, 25 years, September 3rd, Jim Gedwello, 8 years on September 9th. And Trevor, of course, had an anniversary date of 9/28. Also, kudos to David Swank. He completed his Module B final exam on his electric apprenticeship, so we're making good progress there. And then also, in October, we have American Public Power Week, we have Natural Gas Week, and then we also have Customer Service Representative Week, so a lot of recognition for our employees coming up in October. Also want to bring to the board's attention that for fiscal year 2021, Project Share, which is where our customers make voluntary contributions, was $229, so that's still an active program that we use. And then coming up approximately October 6th to October 12th is our twice-a-year sunspots. Happens in the spring, happens in the fall, where there's a potential for TV interference from the sunspots. So just want to bring that to customers' attention. Also, October 25th to the 29th is when we'll be doing our hydrant flushing this year. We didn't do it earlier because of the water conservation measures, but we will be doing it this fall. And then finally, the latest projections from our natural gas providers, BP. Of course, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt the same way you do Farmer Almanac predictions, but they're predicting a cold and dry winter for this winter. And we are already starting to see an increase in natural gas prices. So there's the potential that gas prices could go up again. Hopefully we don't see another polar vortex, but gas prices are already starting to creep up. So Any other questions for me or for any of the staff?
I have a couple.
Okay,
I mean, they're just people asking, so.
sure.
Why, I mean, we painted the water tower, when was the last time that water tower was painted? Last year? Up there on
On 12?
59?
Oh, on 59, that tower hasn't been painted 3 years?
Yeah, I think
3 or 4 years since we painted that tower.
So there's like a lot of condensation that looks kind of gray or moldy?
On the bottom side?
Yeah.
Yeah, that occurs in, sometimes in the summer from the moisture that condenses.
Is there anything we can do about that?
The last time it happened, we had them come in and treat it. It's just a temporary fix. We don't have any apparatus that can reach that high. We have to have contractors come in to do that. So it's a summertime phenomenon from the condensation.
All right, and then, do we have any 8x8 voice over internet protocol for phones?
8 by 8, we don't have
Internet
any.
tech,
What kind?
an 8x8?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Like,
We don't have voice over internet.
we don't have, that's what I want to know. We do not have voice over internet?
No.
It's nothing we want to get into or anything?
When did we get out of that? It was, we haven't had VoIP for quite a while, have we?
Well, that was years ago when they were using cable EMTA technology. Currently, we just have GR303 POTS line phone switch.
Digital phone switch now, so.
Because I know like HMU just went to 8, or Merchant is going to an 8x8, so I was just wondering why we didn't.
If they, I'm not sure, can't answer that question. We can do some digging if you have some more info.
And then why do we have, like if you want someone to come to your house and, drop a cable or something? For cable TV?
Cable TV.
Yeah. So most of the people in this town work 8 to 4:30, And then people have to get off work to have people come because nobody takes appointments. We don't take appointments till after the last appointment is 3 o'clock. Is there a reason for that, or can we be more flexible with that, or what's the problem with that?
For dropping off equipment?
Or no, for like if somebody wants a TV moved into a living room and people work 8 to 4:30, so then they have to leave work to come let them in at 3 o'clock, because that's the last appointment they'll take, to hook up cable.
Just traditionally always worked 7 to 4, and the last schedule, like you said, is usually about 3 o'clock. Traditionally, that's just always been the working hours. So.
Sorry, I was just asking,
No.
because
Yeah, that's fine.
just trying to make people in the town happy.
Yep.
We haven't really had complaints over that over the years. Usually they can make it work. And a lot of times they'll go out and make sure they show them where everything needs to be, and then they can leave.
They can do that?
If they would like
Yeah,
to.
they don't have to stay.
We don't prefer it, but if they really have to get back to work, they surely can. And we do have some people that will be like, they'll stay to make sure everything's going good, but
Just historically, that's always been the working hours. So we've never had like an after-hours rotating serviceman or anything like that on, other than they're on call for emergency restoration.
Right.
But that's all we've ever done after hours. So.
And then do all the customers know that if like 71 is pixeling like it was last night, I got a phone call. 71 was pixeling, so I suggested, turn it to 1071. They've been here all their life and they never knew that they could turn it to 1071 and it would work.
Okay. Well, we can do some
How would you suggest that we inform customers?
That I don't know.
I mean,
That I don't know. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been here all your life and I'm just now starting
Have
out
they
on
ever
this.
asked? I mean, have they ever called and asked us?
No, she said she did call the, whatever, the
After
line.
hours,
And I had to hear, yeah, she was on hold for,
a while.
yeah.
Yeah. And
We could
understand,
probably put maybe something like that on our Facebook page, if they could always try one of those other channels if the lower ones aren't working.
it's basically the difference between the HD and
Right.
the standard def, so.
Right, and I said, well, just try 10 cents. Oh, no, that's not gonna work. And I said, well, try, trust me, it's gonna work. Try it. And they did, and oh boy, it worked.
Okay, well, we can do some customer education, so.
I mean, it's just as long as, we, as be transparent as we can.
Okay. Any other questions?
Anything from anyone online?
Anybody online have any questions or comments?
None from Shore, thank you.
Nope, and Mike and Liquor and Matt Hudson are the only other ones on, and it doesn't.
No, I'm fine. I have no other questions unless you have questions of me about what we discussed previously.
Doesn't look like anybody's unmuting. I just have a couple things. We just found out today that we will be doing the homecoming coronation live on Channel 15 along with the football game later that night. And then if anybody out there is looking for employment, we'll have 2 job openings that we'll be posting next week, one for the water plant and one for our meter shop. So hopefully we can get some good candidates.
And we still have the open
Yeah.
lineman, journeyman
And we still
lineman
have during the
position,
lineman
so.
open if anybody knows anyone for that.
All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.